이제 안 좋아시다 림비게 답기 좋아서 좋아시 안 좋아서 비 좋아나 디과 장비게 안 좋아 안 될이야 dorma jinje ane bashe majiroshi SS shueda ane chigyon ya ne chigi choba dorma puije ane chedubala nyamlenje bala bashe tamje se ane tunyin dugoe digi shasan dugege drotine ziroshi ese ne odu she shuedi ante resen digorang zu shuere.
Good afternoon. This morning, we looked at the fifth sub-point in transforming adversity into the path by looking at the four practices of, firstly, accumulation of merit, purification of negativities, thirdly, offering tormas to non-humans, and fourthly, making offerings to Dharma protectors.
아니네 나도 쉬어야 되라 charla 강도 곰도 잘해서 디고마시 디 쉬어야 되다.
Now, the sixth and final sub-point here, whatever you encounter, immediately apply to meditation.
나 charla 강도 곰라 잘해서도 다 차서도 내가 거두거두를 세워다. 내가 거두거두야 직세도 제자들에게 거두거두 내가 불이야 되니기 갱에 도시의 체유도 갑라 안데 아니 지kom제 이게 야지게 갱에 디 견체네 아주 자조람도 곰 셈디 아니 자조람지 산조고바도 교곰 냠는 제도가 제호래서 오다.
The meaning is as it says, whatever amongst the many encounters, occurrences one has, whatever arises to one's mind, immediately transform that into the path to enlightenment.
네, 맨날 저기 가브리엘야 안지게 내나자 나용하다 내나지 긴체 나와다 아니 양지게 미다미 라소비게 수리아 지금 네버기와 라소바 아니 지게 되게 네버기와 네다 다워세 미션다게 수리아 아니 지 강아지 네버기와 라소바 여바나 데네갑리아 아니 네버기요도 안 소소게 셈마기바제 안 셈투 셈마기바제 되네 코로나나 소소가 강한 침보리스 제가 디네갑려야 가르쳐고래서네 디네게 강한 셈디 셈마기바지 마중하지 안 될야 가사 슈바나지 동아 다도련바다 네발의 지만이 비된데 삼다제 아니 안저게 긴야람도 규르도바지 오래서지 제가 디네 인자다 디네게 네발의 소소네 나자다 디네게 강한 오태여도 네나지 용하다 된이 네바지알아서바 데네 강아 티야도 안에 가르삼 땅고래서네 남사오다 데네기 점리나라야 데네기 동안 용하되겐 당아치고 마이바 셈젠 빠도 메바 요레스 제자다 셈젠 빠도 메바 요레 제자 데네 자다 제왕 말레다 뇨모 용기 다 동안 용어에 데네 빠도 메바 요레스 데네자 데네기 셈젠 담제 다 동안 용어 인제 셈베 니조고미야다 안 데네기 니조고메 토네 다심제 대지기 동아대 자와등의 지인 선배 삼다제 다 건조기 동아대기 수소설하게 렌제 안행만 주기다 가서 동렌제 들어왔다 두신래 소설야 직팀서 선배게 마바지하다 두신에 이제 오래서 하시 송고도와
Whatever one encounters, whether it's something unpleasant or something pleasant, in other words, if an aversion towards it arises or an attachment towards it arises, then this is something that you must immediately apply your meditation to. So in other words, the meditation that you've been doing, you need to take into your daily life. And whatever you encounter in your daily life, apply your meditation to that. So for example, if you feel a bit off, you're feeling a bit ill, instead of the mind going in a negative train, thinking, oh no, now I'm getting sick, this means I won't be able to fulfill all my responsibilities, what happens if it is that serious illness returning, whatever it may be. Instead of one's mind going off in the afflicted way, apply your meditation to this. Or if you meet someone and they someone that you dislike, and immediately non-virtuous minds arise, or someone talks in your presence in a way you dislike, instead of allowing those afflictions to arise, or if they have arisen, to dominate, immediately apply your training. And in terms of applying one's training, there are two components here in particular. One would be the training in patience, in that one either, depending on the circumstances, willingly accepts the suffering. In other words, one accepts that this is just part of the experience of being a samsaric being. Unwanted things happen. It's not a big deal. Moreover, suffering has many benefits. And the second type of suffering we've referenced is that of patience with harm from others. So when others are acting in a harmful way, you apply your training, understanding where they're coming from, that they themselves are afflicted and therefore suffering, and compassion, love, and wisdom arise. So there are so many opportunities like this that one encounters every day. And the second method that one can apply, patience being the first, the second, is to recognize this unwanted encounter I'm experiencing now. Countless beings are experiencing and will still experience, because they have the causes for this. And therefore, if one has trained well in taking and giving, immediately one can engage in the practice of taking and giving in relation to taking on the suffering of all beings. This is this particular encounter that one has. This encounter is an illustration of what all beings are experiencing. By me experiencing it now, may I take it on from all beings. And by me not responding in an afflicted manner, but a skillful manner, this virtue I give to all beings. So then these two ways, taking, giving, and patience, is the method from your meditation to apply whatever you encounter.
and be massive that Jim condoletenga and the Janshu Sem Caso Niji Comiera, Niji Jamse Comia Yamnachia Regidu, Chita Sube Yamnachia Regidu, Chesadi, me Denigi Yamnachia, and the Sanjo Cobo Toyalia, Ta Neru, the Nilia, Sanjo Cobo Toyalia, and the Corong Jugalia, Chiro Chidu, Pengudu, Chita Bemasi, getting Chimboreshanga, Denigi. Bene sangye na jamni jo komya da sebe nyamne chedi za chimbo shu za denege nyamne chedi konzo genji ne konzo le tene yungdo ha dine za pemase yagore samje ani ji getting jada getting ji kom denege komme komba ina ani karasne denege be yagore se getting komba ina palo konrolan go ma da khepsan dire da donda dire sefa komgo konrolan konriki go mare konma jebane lunga gi jeba dujeli dibasa go mare 지사 되네 그린 침보에서네 잠니제 삼다 베진 침보 약보래 삼다에도 소속에 개버사고로 수능사고로다 도나디르와 되네 자디 두치는 공부에서 지상 하상아주 군나 그린 채와 공부해야지 디나리 요만하지 되네 삼당 고래서지
Moreover, if you have trained well in some of the other components here, such as developing a genuine appreciation, a sense of closeness towards others through recognizing the kindness and benefits they directly and indirectly bring into your life, then when one encounters unwanted circumstances, and this again can be those acting to you in a way you dislike, or maybe your wishes being obstructed, things not going as you want, then if you have trained well and developed a sense of closeness for others, a tenderness and a warmth towards others, then independent on that, immediately an appreciation for this person will arise. You'll be feeling close to them, so you can have a sense of appreciation. And that appreciation is in relation to you having this opportunity to practice the Dharma, to practice in particular love, compassion, wisdom, patience. And thereby, through this virtue, Buddhahood is coming ever closer. Because here, when you've trained well, your mind is generally at peace. It's not easily agitated, and very seldom, therefore, does one get an opportunity to generate these minds in the face of adversity. Yeah, when you meet a suffering being and they act to you in an unskillful way, these minds of love, compassion, and wisdom will naturally arise within you because of your training. And therefore, afterwards, you generate a sense of appreciation for this person, for the opportunity they've provided for you to cultivate virtue, and thereby come ever closer to attaining Buddhahood.
Jine tempa sta ganzanga kangde ya nyamne jeda rimba mango songwa de jesu pa ne ngade jin dor du che ya nyamne jeta de shuba ina da jine nyamne jeti o de chi rimba de songore da din ma di shu yare.
Now we come to the fourth of the 7 points, and is presenting a summary of a lifetime's practice. So we've covered really a tremendous number of trainings, and now a summary of those. So reading it all together. The heart essence of these spiritual instructions is, in brief, to apply oneself to the 5 powers. As the Mahayana instructions for transference of consciousness is those very 5 powers, their practice is essential.
Sonye de nga se de menga se de dusine de sungor jesa de jinga zo ya de ge jamni jo komda ane chige di dambo khorane ya ngonjo kable ya ane chiwa meta wo komya re ane chige khorwe nge jo samda ya de de jamni jo komya de tongling samda ya ane de tongba yi komya ane chige Dene ane chigi kanga chiri kabliya kodo dushin sam dangore sede mango sunruwa disu shisan damga chasore damga sede damga disure da disu so ningbo dige danda dige chisan su ningbo dige su duiche ane ma nyamnen chewala pa jana shubayne karesene da tomga dala jawasha tomga sam dangwe hone nyamnen chewore yesu gore.
So explaining the first point in the word order of the Tibetan. So it starts with what I've translated as spiritual instructions. So in most translators, you'll know the term of pith instructions. What it comes down to are personal spiritual instructions or advice. It's stronger than advice. Advice you can accept or not accept. This is how you should train your mind. So personal spiritual instructions, and it relates to in our context. Personal spiritual instructions refers to all that has been presented. What has been presented thus far is all these topics already presented. And this term then is heart essence. This implies that it's been these personal spiritual instructions have been given in a condensed manner, an abbreviated manner. And what are these personal spiritual instructions? They are firstly, we looked at the preparatory practices, then the preliminary practices of the precious human rebirth and its impermanence, and then the sufferings of samsara through the true sufferings and true origins. Thereafter, the trainings of the Mahayana, starting with the wisdom realizing emptiness, and then those of conventional bodhicitta, cultivating an appreciation, a kindness of others, love, compassion, and patience, as well as the practice of taking and giving. So these are the personal spiritual instructions that have been given in an abbreviated manner. So the heart essence of these has been given. And now if one condense them, so this is the last of it, is in brief, to condense them, apply oneself to the 5 powers. So to practice all these instructions, you can do so by means of the 5 powers.
데네게다 담가 뒤시 반ing보 뒤시 안에 가르치는 동화 라 자르시 동화이 돈에 냠면 지고래서 동화 달라 자와자스 세상다 동화이 돈에 냠면 지에서 동화디 가래 람나다 펜비 돕다고 펜비 돕어야 돼 곰비 돕어야 돼 데네 가보사는 가보사분이 돕어야 돼 데네 순진비 돕 데네 몰람이 돕어야 돼 동화들라 다 동화세 송도와.
So what are the 5 powers? So just as says the translator, I may have to alter the translation as we go, but we'll see. So here are the 5 powers. The first is the power of, maybe we can express it as resolution or determination. So having resolve or determination. That's the first, the power of resolution. The second is the power of, maybe it's familiarization, would be the right way to express it. The third is the power of virtuous seeds. The fourth maybe as the power of revulsion or loathing. And the fifth is the power of prayer.
아니사다 펜비 돕세리 나 마음반응이 지인세비 삼다에 차고도 나라 펜비 돕세야돼 펜비 돕세야돼 당은 주변에 오당이 상이디 지인나 나니 지인나서 로 펜바사 로 펜바다세야돼 지고래 제사디 펜비 돕 펜세디라고 마음반의 지인세비 로이 펜라도 마음바지클이야 지인세비 삼다에 지인세 삼다에 펜바세월다.
So the first one, the power of resolution or determination. So this is where one makes a firm resolve about the future in the terms of, I will do so. So just like at night, you think, okay, tomorrow I need to do this, this, and this. And you say, okay, when I wake up, because it's a busy day, I better get going. And this is the sequence I need to do things in. So this is the meaning here of this word in this context. So the power of resolution or determination.
펜비도 없이도 나니 아주 가르쳤습니다. 또 아주 닝보디 장주쌤 공야 장주 군소 장주쌤다 또나 장주쌤 동방이도 베셔라 니디 다 공기 인세데 에 안에제 뒤디리 데리네 손제 뒤니 데리네 손 안에 상이나 나니다 다와다 로다 다 마시기 봐도 에 안에 장주쌤다 군소 장주쌤다 또나 장주쌤도 공진 얌는 지인 선배섬다 데네야 마시 봐도 데야 안에 지 세디자마이 깨와치마 상지고 고파 마토비기 봐도 네 장주쌤다 동요도 베셔라디 곰냠는 지인 선배게다 삼다에 펜바 나와서 데네기 지인 뒤디레네 송데 당에 좀 무티제 바 안에 마시 봐도 상지고 고파 마토비기 봐도 네 이제 장주쌤 니보디 곰제냠네 지인 선배 삼다에 펜베도 없이고래.
So what then is the resolution that one is making? That is twofold. I will strive from this moment forth to cultivate the mind of bodhicitta and the wisdom realizing emptiness. I will do so today, I will do so tomorrow, and I'll do so every day afterwards throughout this life. I make this commitment. And I make this commitment to continue to do so until I become a bodhisattva. And I make this commitment that even when I become a bodhisattva, I will continue to strive wholeheartedly day after day in the cultivation of bodhicitta and the wisdom realizing emptiness until the goal of the bodhisattva is achieved, until each and every being has attained enlightenment. So this, in our context, is the meaning of the power of resolve.
지사디 펜베 뜻게레 지사디니 자다 고 두스케 고바디 제고베 김전 가레스데 당원조 삼다야들라 지사다 샘전 담죠 코이 다치게 강아태야디 둥하게 나제 강아태도 샘전의 둥하단 자고도 지사 둥하 영하게 규디야 녀모바텔레 끼기도와 지사다 샘전의 둥하라 다나 샘베기 니지고 샘전 담질레 디기지 고도 샘베기 잠바고 잠제고 곰 데네 샘전의 둥하단 자바데 니 지고도 니 맞은데 탑민도 샘베다 벤을 학삼 인도라게 인도기도 어다디네 상에 샘전 담지게 편도 줘발라 아니 편도 초도 주고 줍터지 상기마도 밀로 제 상기고 톱고도 제 상기고 마마도 탑민도 새벽에 장주 샘 삼다 제사다 상주 고바 토고원자 다 상주 고바 토발라 아니 장주 심비 개와 주야다 아니 동방이 녀모 녀보 동방이 또 비셔라 자 심니보다 마고만데 상주 고바 토투구민 대장에 뒤들이는 손제 심제 탐지게 된다 상주 고바 토고데 뒤토와야 된다래야 디 토유 아니 장주 셈다 동방이디 무디죠 공기 제사당에 무디제 상주 고바 마소게 봐도 디린 바고 주신 상주 고바 마토가도 공기인 셈베게 되네게 삼다이르다 디펜베도 없어야 돼. 도스천 송거와. 제사당이 가르스네 셈제 탐 상주 고바 토발라 전주 셈다 동방이 또 비셔라 마곰나 상주 고바 토투고 민두 제사다 상주 고바 토고인자데 상징의 상주 고바 마토 예바도 전주 셈다 동방이 또 비셔라니요. 공발 지긴 세베다 도스치는 삼나타야디 펜베도 없음으로다.
This resolve needs to rise within one with power. And therefore, one needs to not just merely make a statement, but generate this thought through having reflected on how I am suffering, as well as why I am suffering, and therefore come to recognize that others are suffering in the same way. This is not acceptable. Others, just like me, want freedom from suffering. You generate compassion. May they all abide in happiness. May generate love. And in fact, I will make this happen. Merely having a wish, no matter how sincere, is insufficient. I will make sure I can guide beings to abandon their afflictions, cultivate wholesome minds, and gain freedom from suffering. And they regenerate wholehearted resolve. But to do so, I have to become the most skilled of guides. I have to become a Buddha and regenerate bodhicitta. And to actually become a Buddha, I need to engage in all the practices of the Bodhisattva, including the wisdom realizing emptiness. I commit to strive from this moment forth, hour after hour, day after day, year after year, life after life, until this is achieved. In this way, we generate the power of this resolution.
Dadi doshine pembataadi dendal pembataasi dinegi da janshu semda karsore tongbaye tobe shera komgi sibe kombe donyergi dumba ye redwa de dumba ye de 제사디 무티네 공부 산지고 마도 예바도 공부에서도 무티제 되니게 가신 조의 권의 무티제 공부에서도 다 존중이 냠네 잠니지 거미야 다네 되니게 무티 공 존중이 냠네 리고래 되니 아주 도시는 삼다하다 되니게 공 펜베도 삼다하다.
The power that this resolve needs to have is that of enthusiastic perseverance, where one generates this joyous, determined attitude. I will do this, and I'll do so from right this moment, and do so continuously. I will cultivate bodhicitta and the wisdom realizing emptiness. And when I cultivate them, I'll cultivate them to the point of perfection. So this resolve here is a motivation, an aspiration, an intent. And the power of it is that of enthusiastic perseverance.
Yesa dang jigi dinigi pembe top sande da dinigi nadi de sungorwa dine zampen ngazo lama chubi cho phudi nyamne jide kabla semjen thamjigi dune sanje ko ba thobar ja sin sanje ko ba thobar ji di chidu lamsama lama le nalju nyapso naora jao semjen thamjigi dune sanje ko ba thobar ja di chirdu lamsama lama li nalju nyamso lawar giwos nalju nyamso lawar giwo nalju komnyam lama chube nyamnen jiyins de di pembe top chago dida jigbarda rasan semja tamju sanyo gobo tobarja top gudu seura di toyege dondala dan lama li nalju ge lami nalju nyamso lingi yin sige jigora da yin nyamso lingi yin seura 제자디 디다 지구에 펜베 또로 차고 어디서 고 코디를 와말 대신 알라라니 라마 디고 마요레데 디 오디와 심지어 탐지교든 겸로스 된 세위실에 나무 그룹에 나무 비대에서 도와디 된 세위 올마 유래 말씀제 권유 된예시 다니엘라마 하르견에 심지어 내자라마 고방설로 그거를 자신 여러와데 어디서 다디래
Don't love it. So again, I recited a verse from Lama Chopa, but I'm not finding it. Somewhere near the beginning, where one is turning to one's Lama, asking for blessings, or this word blessings, it means inspiration. So for inspiration, so as to be able to apply oneself to become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings.
제상주 난주메 된데 난주메 남냠서 나와 자오 세지 중국어 되고로 제사디 지인시로다 지인시되다 편받던 거로 샘제 탐지 산조고 봐 대치도 더제 난주메 남냠서 나와 자오선 샘제 나 샘제 탐지 산조고 봐 토고도 제사 산요 토고자 더제 난주메 남냠서 렘발에 때능에 산요고 봐 토바지 디냠서 링기 인시로다 대수 차사 디 편별도 다디 손다다 직바 차고 편별도
Masim tamche dugnel drill, de chinsangge gi sala gupacha, de chedu lam zabmo lame lai, neljo nyamsu lam.
나와 자오 냠수 링기 인식으로 받아. 제사디 펜바.
Okay, yeah, put. Found the verse. So it's right at the beginning of the Lama Chopa. Where are we at? Number 6th verse. I shall free all mother sentient beings from suffering and place them in the great bliss of Buddhahood. Therefore, I shall now practice the profound part of Guru Yidam Yoga. So what you hear from the expression of this verse, the 6th verse, is this resolve. And this is this first of the 5 powers, is this power of resolve. So one here in this, the 6th verse of the Lama Chopa is making this resolve that I will now engage in practice so as to become a Buddha for the sake of suffering beings.
난주메 냠솔라와 자오 세다 되네 슝구도 요로와데 디나신다 네 드라마요 되네 망무용을 가리네 초와도요도 디냠스 링기 인세데 또 신예를 삼는데 용구로와데 저선 펜베도 없어야지 주소데 직바 차고.
And in the same Lama Chopa, as in other verses, as well as in other pujas or sadhanas you may engage in, there will have this expression near the beginning of this resolve. I am going to do this. And this commitment, we see here from the outline, refers to a lifetime's commitment. And this lifetime really is the extent of the lifetime of one as an ordinary being, until one becomes a bodhisattva. In fact, even beyond that, until one becomes a Buddha.
언제는 냠수 랭기 세베 삼로데다 샘전 탐제 상제 고방 토발라 딩냠수 말은 탑디 냠수 랭기 세베 상제 고방 마토발 냠수 랭기 세베 삼로데 베 슉첨보지 펜발 잡았다나 디기 견진 메니 냠수 랭디랴 냠네디 슉체 리고레 그래서 뒤로 왔다는 저 뒤로 가리나 뒤로 왔다 제모 당가 제모 제긴 세베 삼로데 슉첨보지나 되는 차와접나 니마샤나 가리나 그 제투야 지어와 제 소속이 분이 로고에나 나 분이 조기 인선배 삼로도 슉첨부주나 남가를 강화 가서 전화 가리나 탑시다 조투가 준 거로 제사데 도해 인선배 삼로도 슉시라면은 어다 강화 제사를 매 죽면서 파치네 자게 니가 체여로 제사 디네자 펜비 똑시도 pen 삼로를 마서 디네 지기 냠수 링기 인선배 삼로도 펜바도 슉 잡으시던 거고래서 슉 잡보다 똑시다 슉첨부 니버첨부로 시작거래.
So these words, 5 powers, can be equally translated as 5 strengths, and this is literally what it means. It is to have this power of mind. And where we see this in society, and this is what we're trying to generate within ourselves, is if you think of an athlete, the power in their mind in terms of, I am going to train no matter the weather. No matter how I feel, I am going to train. And you can imagine them at the point of competition. Even if they're feeling not on top form, they're going to get out there and they're going to compete because of this, the power within themselves that they've generated, this determined attitude. So this is what we're trying to replicate in terms of one's commitment to training bodhicitta and the wisdom realizing emptiness continuously for the sake of others.
Da gombe top sedi, da dinigi gombe top sedi, da dinigi deji janju kunzo janju semna tongbangin to be shared the gomgi se pempa tawa inza da nibedelia da sosorangi jam ninje gomne den janju sem gomya da tongbangin to be shared gomne yane yando gombadi da gombe top yo gom ngosung janju semja de sanyo ko ba toba sho sebe samda gomba da yanji tongbangin kasana jeba je dinigi gangla de ba rangyong de ba zaw gi mindu a sembe delia jingwe na dewi tone den xixin denje zhe gomba ina dene gombe topdi yane yado charji manba yane yado gomba de la da dus gomba de jine gombe topsiore.
So the 5 powers, the first is the power of resolve, the second then the power of familiarization or meditation. So here one is committing to meditate and to cultivate through meditation what one has set one's resolve on, cultivate bodhicitta and the wisdom realizing emptiness. And the particular form of the verb here is that of non-volitional. So in other words, that you commit to engaging in intentional meditation until it arises within you naturally, spontaneously, that you take it to this level of familiarity, not just where one sits down and does the meditation, but so that it eventually becomes part of who you are, part of your very expression, part of your personality. So one commits to train with mindfulness and vigilance, both in formal sessions and informally, to keep with mindfulness and vigilance these qualities of the wisdom, understanding, emptiness, and bodhicitta in mind.
Dine giyane lo gomba de gombe topje, da dine ane kabo sabunyi topsiyo da, dine ge kabo sabunyi topsiyo di, da dine ge jamni je da, janju sem na tongpa nyo gom sani, dine pa zu yang jik zu ka sore tunsam maso na, dine ge le yang du, ane dele ya, ane gewa zhuya dire. 제사다 잔듯이 잔주 셈 고미야다 동방인도 베시라 공바디 고미야디 뭐 공원에 공도 폐하게 된다라 소사 집자 가서 소사야 되래 제사디네 소사야라 디네 잔주 셈다 동방인도 베시라 냠는디 뭐 공부도 주에 체도 디네 랑기 아니 제 라마다 이담리야 아니 최고부야 아니 만데부야 아니 차세야라 소바다 고라고와라 소바 디네 생각줘봐라 소바 두스전에 되네 안지게 야나 dimby고네 두스전에 최후야라서 봐제바나 근데 가버 서버니 돕셔야 돼 가질에 되네게 선음 사야 돼 개워줘야 돼 차고를 제다디 샘제 잠니제다 가서 자주 샘다 동방인도 싫어 공부도 고미에게 냠내디 야기 공부도 주에 쳐도다 되네게 공 참미네 가서 되네 차세와 최고부와 되네 만대부와 나서 봐다 되네게 개와 가지고 강토도 줘야 되다 네, 가보사는 사분이 돕세 가보셔야 돼. 기회냐면 잡았어.
So the first power, the power of resolve, so one sets one's determined attitude. Then one commits with the second, the power of familiarization or meditation, to strive in cultivating bodhicitta and the wisdom realizing emptiness within. Now with the third is the power of virtuous seeds. Here one engages in the accumulation of virtue. So this is done in differing ways, or in a number of ways. One is in one's practice of bodhicitta and wisdom realizing emptiness, but one also engages in specific acts of accumulation in order to aid one's cultivation of bodhicitta and the wisdom realizing emptiness. What this means is to develop bodhicitta, to develop the wisdom realizing emptiness, one does not only meditate on those two. One engages in, as mentioned in the preparatory practices, the seven-limb prayer, seven-limb practice, whereby one offers a mandala and as well as makes various supplications and so forth to one's lama, to one's yidam, to the three jewels, in order to make merit to aid one's cultivation of bodhicitta and the wisdom realizing emptiness. And one may engage in additional practices to the seven limbs, such as doing circumambulation, make offerings and so forth, with the motivation that through this merit, may my meditation on bodhicitta and the wisdom realizing emptiness bear fruit. May I quickly, for the sake of others, become a bodhisattva and realize emptiness. So in this way, in order to aid what one is committed to meditating on, which is in accordance with one's resolve, here in the third power, one engages in explicit acts of accumulation of virtue.
Jimbe nyamne chebada ani dushene sebe samta jimbe nyamne surim nyamne chedi yungurwa arasene da karsen beneda de jam janju semna toba yokom sidede ko ba tunsamro jeje 참지 다로 주도 수금 다든지 참튼 참샤지 치료도 다야지 기시시아 기시야 셈게 제 된저발이야 신리야 내세용하게 년가여서 릉하게 줘바디게 샹을 내비게 잡아디게 봐 송야게 되네야 디지갑리야 안지 관계되지 최고부에서야 돼 되지 조사하지 되네 양지 현다 돈도라 소바다 심지알라 소바다 밀리 소시가 강투디기 진바다에게 냠내지야 되네기 진배님네 시대다 진배님네 세대라 되네 소시기 튕긴 돈에 샹리야 로제 도시네 직 셈제이나라 되네기 미나 되네 로제 템버주에 진바다야 아니야 소시기 롭종 시인 돈에 신 마싱바다 시바지 파 삼바 남나 돈에 컨트롤 펜베 삼베 돈에 컨트롤 라비아라 소바 그래서 니지 소시기 개회냠네 샹리야 개회냠네 제주바네 취기 진바 자기로와 되네야 가시 네바다 데니기 지기 강아유 뒤에 지기 내래 교비야 뒤에 메뉴 돈을 로버제 제야다 아니 무슨 라소바 심전라소바 데니기 추나 주제 소래 시에냥 제수수 된제 교바 제바이나 제사다 미직비 진바 데니기 진배냐면 개와 주에는 데니기 냠네 제여도 안제서 비디나다 냠샤티기 데니기 튼 참유도 그불 개화장도 삼로디 개위 삼장장 치리고로 개위 삼로까지 슈체여버네 되네 아니 개지나 개화지 듬버 되니 듬버디 바지 무티지네 슈체셔 두고로 되네 인자다 되네 야지 되네기 개화주 전에 참야바 곰제야 자슈sem 곰야다 내 돈이 곰야라서 두시 곰베네 고 오고니 고도 해야 돼 두고로 되네자 디 가보사보니서 톱세 디네도
One engages in the power of virtuous seeds at the outset of a meditation session, for example, engaging in the seven-limb prayers, and so forth. Also, though, in between sessions, one engages in other acts of the accumulation of virtue, so as, on one hand, to ensure that the qualities of mind that one has accumulated in meditation are not lost, but are rather enhanced, as well as to accumulate further virtue, so as to aid one's later meditation sessions. So, for example, when one is in between sessions, one is going to be going about one's daily activities, interacting with others, and there it's imperative to utilize the training of ethical restraint, to keep one's mind restrained from coming under the influence of the afflictions, because if one does then act in an afflicted manner, that will impede the result of one's meditation on bodhicitta and emptiness. One also needs to engage in a corresponding way in the practice of patience, and where one can express the bodhicitta one is cultivating, one does so through generosity. So this is important to engage in the power of virtuous seeds, both in meditation session, but also explicitly between sessions, because this not only aids the virtue you've accumulated in session from degenerating, but knowing that, or having this in mind, the need to accumulate virtue now helps to ensure that you keep with mindfulness and vigilance, bodhicitta, and the understanding of emptiness in mind during sessions. And when you have moments alone, you can engage in explicit acts to cultivate virtue, to aid your future meditation sessions. For example, practice generosity. So there's the normal ways to act that we hear presented, like making offerings and so forth. But certainly also when one is walking mindfully, being aware of one's environment, and one sees probably it would be an insect in distress, perhaps in a puddle of water. So for us, we can very easily save that being's life. For the insect, there's not much they can do on their own, but you can easily, without trouble, save their life. And this way, practice the generosity of fearlessness. And if you have the opportunity to practice the generosity of Dharma through either teaching the Dharma or maybe answering questions from your Dharma friends, then you do so with this virtuous motivation of bodhicitta and the wisdom understanding emptiness. Or you can practice generosity in material generosity through helping, through charity and so forth, but also practice fearlessness through helping the ill, maybe buying medicine for those in countries without support. So there are many ways to help, and one does so, though, with the motivation through this accumulation of virtue. May it aid my cultivation of bodhicitta, my wisdom realizing emptiness, so that I can become a Buddha for the sake of others. So in this way, there is this interconnected relationship between your meditation sessions and the between sessions, that the one aids the other.
Jimbe nyamne saydige na zo ngade jimbe nyamne sayde zo semgidire pa 당긴 세비가 건축을 추보 표기 현달에 파 진로 지긴 세비 다 제로 시나가리나 소속이나 파 지긴 세비 삼로디 다 진방원에 디레 진방원에 디 안에야도 소속에다 즉 무엇소 제 예배나다 고수 제배 당이 가리나 당이 되는 시험만 될 지기나 로고 지기야서 셴을 펜버 두긴 세비 삼다야디 땅 주기 디레 Jimbenyam, Benesemja Rojin, all sorts of me so yogi in Sembe sometime, so did Chigi Jimbe Samnodi in sort because of Mijibi Jimbe some Yamajo, yogi inside. The nigger Gangat and yogi said that most of your deduction on the Kambana or Desimja in the Gangat and never till a Gangat dealing yogi could say sort of yoke to a jiggy Sembege, Semjan, that Chechun Yadu, drink Gadina Semjan, Tamje. Semjan 탐제 강아 가르데 세솔레 강아 신나 딜레딩이 요이 셈비 두신의 삼다베나 미지비 짐바데 먼저 냠는 지고래 다 뭐소 되네게다 다 되네 무슨 라소바데 강아 체르베나 넬야 껴바디다 라랭고소 짐비게 뭐소디 자교르와 맞아 다 삼로 다에디 계시 뭐 자고를 아버지래 디나시 다 먼저기 짐베님나 제라소바 짐바생이 강아 되네 강아 되는데 되네 로고 제가 되네 로고 지나 셈 삼로디 짐베 냠는데래 짐베님나 삼다에데 다 대모소 소소게다 바 로고 제디 소소기 튕게다 소소야 강아 체담에 되네 바비게 소소게 뉴비 강아족이 제디다 셴리아 로고 제도나 제규래 이제 맞아 인지 메지다 오다 로봇이 직접 로봇이 삼다제 제야 가면 등아 디디 판도스 가면이나 선배게 삼다나 지금 말해 제가 좋아하는데 아주 삼문나리아 세나치어 어디 지금에 가랑 고고도 세나치어로 봐 되네 세나데 삼로래 지산 디세나디 봐 매버 쇠라 제긴 세베 삼로디 장고고래 제가 파 당긴 세베 삼로 주나 담도 심베 세나데 조르고 제다다 세나디기 아주 예나 로봇제마도 땅마토버디 세나디 지고래 제사다 디 세나디 도고래 제사데 세나데 마도바나 제투에 메레 제사다 장기징 제긴 세베서 고 장거도 로디파 장에도 데네 고합라나 소소게 제투바 중 제투고래 제사 데네 장에도 데네마 삼로디파 슈 지체르장 nuba cheru then janju semba de gedu nyamne na yodu de jan lo de pa jan yedu then janju sembe pabyo go ba to yedu lui da loja garena chasan jimbe da to yedu yongore then ngaran zo le ya jigin sembe jebe ne audite ro shilana 어디디 ngaran go de te su zamare sembe ngaran te tu ye ge chasan te tu ye ge yo mare ngaran samno na le sena damjin yongore 제가 되니기 제 동외 semba jaede 다 진비 냠len 파진 냠len 조다 모조 세디 소소 삼는 날에 동의 셈바 파 장제된 가야나 땅인 셈베 세나 가야 메디겐 땅 투에게 삼로 꼴 끼기 위해 봐나 진비 파진 냠len 되고래.
I mentioned previously the need to look honestly within oneself through meditation, getting to know yourself, and I've also mentioned the importance of acting in accordance with your capacity. So acting in a way that's sincere, that's true. One's capacity, though, is not fixed. It is something that can be cultivated. And the way to cultivate it is in meditation. And furthermore, the very heart essence of every Buddhist practice isn't what we do with our hands or do with our voice. It is what we are doing with our mind. So to bring these 2 points together, talk about the practice of generosity. So generosity, in its essence, is the mind of giving, the wish to give. So whether one is actually giving or not is secondary. One is practicing the generosity through the development of the generous spirit, the wish to give. Even if one is not actually giving anything material, but one is expressing the wish to give, or cultivating the wish to give, then one is practicing generosity, training in generosity. So this is important to know, because one may feel, oh, I've got so little in abundance, I can't do much. This is deeply mistaken. You sit quietly, you practice generosity. You see what you observe in the world, and where you see a need, even if you can't do anything, you generate the wish. If I could, I would. May I have the capacity to do so. When I cultivate the capacity to be able to help in circumstances like this, I will do so. May all beings gain freedom of suffering such as this, and I commit to doing so when I'm able. So in this way, one generates this determined attitude to give of oneself. And if one lacks the means right now, one has the aspiration that when one has the means, one will give. Because the mind that is opposite to generosity is the self-centered mind of miserliness. The wish to hold on to what is mine, to only give what I really don't need, but to hold it, make sure I'm looked after first. So this is something that we have. And again, when you look inside honestly, you recognize it's there and you work in accordance with that. You don't push yourself way beyond your capacity, because then you will limit yourself in terms of being able to apply yourself continuously over decades. So rather, in meditation, you develop the wish to give, to give, to give. And as this wish of giving of oneself grows, you will naturally express that wish when the opportunities come. Because in meditation, when you are giving, the yearning will come, I want to have this opportunity to give of myself. And then when you meet those opportunities, because of your training, your meditation, you'll be able to give of yourself genuinely, sincerely, not doing it because others are watching and you know it's the right thing to do, but with a joyous mind, you'll be giving of yourself. So therefore, in your meditation, you train in giving. When you see others in need and you don't have the capacity to give, you generate the wish, if only I could, when I can, I will. May all beings be free of this suffering. And in this way, we naturally reduce our mind of miserliness, strengthen our mind of generosity by developing in this way. And for example, I mentioned that giving of fearlessness, where you help a being who's in grave danger. So this could be through giving medical support, or helping a being whose life is in danger, like the insect in water. So you may not have these encounters very often, but you develop the wish. Then your mind will, as soon as it observes a situation where you have that opportunity, it will embrace that opportunity. It will not pass by unnoticed. And with joy, you will help a being in need. So this is the purpose of meditation. This is how meditation changes us in meditation and in the lived world. Sorry, and almost missed one point. Right now, we have many limitations in what we can give. When we compare ourselves to the great practitioners, we really see that. The great practitioners, the Arya beings, they give their lives, they give their limbs. We cannot do this, and we are not meant to emulate it. But by training now, when we have that capacity, we will be able to do so. So the training in generosity now is part of the training that will lead us to eventually becoming an Arya being and be able to practice like those great beings.
도고레스 현재가 집에 섬 땅고레스 제자다 란지징이 섬로 도고레스도 란이야 안에 통중 다야다 란이야 강아지야디 섬로 콜교마디 마레스 제자 란지징 도고레 현재가 진고레스 송고로와 제자 냠는디 지고레스 제자 디네 자당도 진비 냠는게 제도 현재가 진비 제 란제바 진보로도 도르체 진비 냠는 제고고레 당한도 진비 냠는 제할 때 마시기 최고부야다 진비 냠는 제디 님다고 기디나가지고 고고 요요 바시래 당한도 저게 칼라사고레 님고 칼라사고 공다 칼라사고레 para라 자동고레 진짜 디니 집에 갑리야 아주 저거 쇼샤 삼다베나 안지게 야 당보 조세디 파주사체 안다 SMJ 탐지기 된다 현래 팬데지 주보도 제가 당도 샘제 타지 대화 된고 샘제 동화도 자고도 제가 샘제의 대화의 대화 동화다와 등의 제고 대장의 샘제 탐지 산조고보 토고도 니 토에 된다려야 등이 야직디 다상계디 건조섬데 비랑래 진침보다 깨진침보 상계디 양안줄에 직변 맛이 판도하죠 깨진침보 시오래 삼비게 구송투기 연대 전신비 토네 아니지 소속에 잠니제 삼다 구성도 연된데 되는 소속에 칼라디야 건조숨이 최고지 표베이나 다디 델리아 잠니제다 gemne konjosumgi yendente gewasa deni sosuge kaladiya semdiniya konjosumli pugiye sembe meba chebane pugina deni jimbatango chebo puyade shesa majune jimbatawa da jesu jebe chebo puya chebo puyade jesa chebo puyade ji samlodile 동위 semba ligore puyi semba ligore jimbe nyamle ligore deni samdade jamnije konjosumgi yendente be gewa 망보 휴징임도 소수 보래.
The practice of generosity is something that is easy to do. There are so many opportunities to do so. Every time you eat, you can offer your food. And if you're drinking something, you can offer your drink. So for example, when you're having breakfast, you either have done or about to do your morning practice, take a moment. You have your breakfast prepared, and now recall the incredible qualities of the three jewels. Recall the great kindness of the three jewels. In that, you recognize just what they are bringing to beings, what they're bringing into the world, giving rise to the wish to be an illustration of the three jewels oneself, to develop the resultant refuge jewels oneself. And with this mind, then, one offers one's breakfast to the three jewels. And one does so with various aspirations that arise in your mind. Through this merit, may I become a Buddha for the sake of others. May I sustain my body through this meal and through this merit, so that I can fulfill this resolve that I've made to train in bodhicitta and the wisdom realizing emptiness for the sake of others. So this is something that we can do every day, and we can do multiple times a day in various iterations of this. So this practice of generosity is something we can engage in multiple times every day.
Denege samda, denege jimbe nyamne chiada, denege 최주에게 냠내지고 고급직시에 다디네 칼라 세리급라 디네 칼라디게 베능한 주의다 지게 칼라디게 오다 디중에서 칼라디게 미시해다 다지 추라다 마다 디네게 샤로 심진 샬레티는 주도 셴디 베디 콘주기 게딩기 알사야라고레스 베 마싱알이야 진침바 게딩침보레샤스 다 심진디 경원에다네 콘주 게딩침보 콘주 깔레슈 잡제 다사야딩이 사야라고레스 베 마시 진침보다 게딩침보 알레 판도 침보시에도와 선배 섬다네 아니게나 코로도 된다래야 심진디소 되지 아니 칼라사야게 된다래 딘레가 딘레디게 심진 간디시나 차사다 아니 거를 레심 디기데 템버쇼 동화다 자오쇼 디기데 템버쇼 선배 삼다제 두시네 사바네 데네야 디디글라 셴 심제 탐젤이야 게딘제야다 진침보데야 안시할이야 네네 저 콘들레 잠바다 저 고미야고 고급지라고 봐 데네 삼다네다 칼라세비냐가서 데네 삼다 여러바다
whilst enjoying your breakfast, keep your mind on this offering you've made, in that being very aware that whatever breakfast you are enjoying has come about independent on the kindness of others. You remind yourself of this incredible web of interdependence that has led to you being able to enjoy this breakfast. The number of beings who are directly and indirectly involved with the many elements of production that are required in order for you to have this is immense. You can also think about the expanse of time that was beings in lives gone by who accumulated the knowledge and thereby the means for modern production. So be aware that the simple breakfast that you're enjoying has come about independence on generations of kindness from others. And thereby, one develops a sense of closeness to beings that you do not know, but who, through their endeavors, bring benefit to you, who are helping you sustain your body. And in return, I will repay that kindness by cultivating bodhicitta and the wisdom realizing emptiness, becoming a Buddha, being their guide to guide them to a state freed of suffering. So you can think like this whilst enjoying your breakfast.
That's Sadhugablia, and there's Dushan some that or that Chiki, the Sadhugalate Sahadia, or that me, Subunalia, Busin, Dang Meba, yours, the Migi Maton, the Busin Bottom Meba, this Shazan, so the Kala Sani Control, Shazan that ringing Kalati, the Condolia, Ninja, the Condolia, Jimbaya, Sambida, the Nigger Condu. Di kaladma singe sa konzo ya do chen jimbai de za de ji kala di zhuo nyong ji konzo mi lu na yu gen bu sin cha sa an ji ge de ji da dian ba de yong shuo sen be sam da je kala se ba na da de ne dong yu ge da jin ba da wi dong yu konzo la rang ge lu na yu bu sin tam ji la dong yu sen ba cha go jin ba da cha go je za da je za gung lo di je za sam lo di xian yun ba xi se xian jie ba jin be sam da 제가 니네 삼당지 거로 이내다 칼라 소소라 세고래 소소를 주고 팽겨래 칼라 심보로 세라고 그래 수보 초월 팽겨래 진두 삼당에 나가서 가린 지겨와서 예리베지 제가 칼라 세비 자동에 네 가리 삼다 니네가 삼다네 두신 삼다나 당 진배냠는 네 지게 상생이 진배냠는 최기 진배냠는 안 차상 차도 대지 권초를 초부에 되게 차고로 와도 최다 되게 that Jamnije some that the channel at the Nije Sembecha Consolia getting Chimpore, that any get Console Java the Temper Dunga the Tower shows be some Davana, Jamnije community Chimba Chairo on the Tiawachu and the Cherwada.
While you enjoying your breakfast, you also be aware that there are beings living within your body, and they survive on on your digestion or the food in your gut, and so by taking this food, others will benefit from it. So therefore, I make this food not merely to sustain my body, but to sustain those beings abiding within my body. So you practice generosity to them. You can generate the wish in the same way that I'm benefiting these beings within my body. Through this energy and strength I gain from this meal, may I come to benefit all beings and benefit them not both through fulfilling their ordinary mundane needs, but also to guide them to gain freedom from suffering. So here, I want to tie this back to what we spoke about earlier in taking and giving. The need to abandon self-cherishing through cultivating other cherishing. So eating a meal, especially if it's a tasty one, this can be very much an expression of attachment. But here, we are trying to do so with minds of the Dharma permeating throughout, and trying to do so with a genuine wish to be of benefit to others through the sustenance. So whilst I'm taking pleasure in this meal, through this pleasure and the joy that it brings me and my mind being light, may I cultivate the Dharma evermore and give of myself evermore to others, because I am entirely interdependent on others. I'm not self-existent. I depend on others through this meal for my spiritual development. All my good qualities come about in dependence on the kindness of others. So in this way, one is practicing material generosity by offering to the beings within our body, but you could also say it's offering a practice of Dharma through one's recollection of Dharma, generating minds such as love, compassion, the other cherishing mind, and so forth, the mind of generosity. It's almost as if one is teaching the Dharma, expressing the Dharma.
Dene yudi kabla dene ya da de samdana de ya jimbe dene ge busin mangbo an dene ge sande din lama de yele konzo busin chile chilo diwa da busin mangbo desole chik ko teben da konzo sa to ko ja ji konzo sol lyden so ru gure dene konzo pembe chi do yin samje de khala lama de ki pha du yue bin na an di dong ye sembe ge jimbe nyam na ja ru gore 제가 유유고래 가야 삼마다 편도면 유샤베네 개와스가야마 유유고래 개와사야가야마 다 삼는 나로 두신 삼다다 심진 부신 망보에 컨트롤 사루 컨트롤 진배이야 판도 용물의 컨트롤다 사야면은 저도 강아 요 제가 강아 세리 되는 편배치 인선배 되네게 다 유베이나 근데 다디 진배냐마 자로 제가다 칼라스에서는 사유가 당보 최고 부 개와사 네네 Dene ane sosugi ane sabi mazin yel yap sho pusar de kalagi de legalegandi ki pa samtane konzul ya jamni je ki de gewasa dene ane sosona sadi kabla da kala sadi sosugi lu na le busin bad me de sogi an sungkyupchi konzul yin sembe chedu sa yin sam sadi donwe jimbata jimbegi jimbata donwe semba ja gewasa dene kala lhamada dene ge lhamade tuyo de dene busin mangbo konzul sa do konzul 펜에 약보를 컨트롤 지유에서 매바지 세바네 짐바다에 개와사 제다다 개와 봐도 매바사 도다닝보데 칼라드 소스라사 소소로 수보페 소수게 뇌바게 디차다 차다 다 제자 현재버 진배 삼류톤에 비제 당도 세바네 칼라사와 레갈레와 차상 개월을 줄투야 줘야 돼래 다 디니기 직매나 아다 칼라레 소수게 차바 칼라신 부들 하신 사고 좀 차바게 사바네 디바사 칼라사 디바사 네 개와사야 메지게 아니 지게 어두스지네 아니 용고르와 제자다 데니기 먼저 칼라사와 자동와 가리나 데니 토네 삼단에 개와사예요 바래 진배념에 제예요 바래
This process whereby one can make extensive virtue from a very ordinary activity, we see it starts with even when one sits down and makes the offering, recalling the qualities of the three jewels, offering your food to them, and doing so with a real appreciation for the three jewels and a determination to become an illustration of the three jewels oneself, the resultant refuge. And whilst eating, one can think about the kindness of all those involved with the process of production, and develop one's determined attitude to repay their kindness, to develop bodhicitta and the wisdom realizing emptiness. Think about the beings abiding in your body and practicing generosity towards them. And then when one's finished one's meal, there will usually be something left over, either left over on your plate or maybe in the preparation, there'll be leftovers that you can put in compost. So whatever it may be, whether it's leftover cooked food or peels, that you can use to alleviate suffering of others. That is a food source from others, or for others. So you can go and put the peels in the compost, or if there's leftover cooked food, you can give it to animals outside. And in this way, you do that with the mind of generosity, of giving to beings in need. So here we see a very simple thing we do many times a day that we can do in a way with the minds of Dharma. We generate extensive merit through strengthening our habituation to the various virtuous ways of thinking. And this then is something everyone can do, and you can take it as a stepping stone for the other activities you do to become expressions of the Dharma, to be done as an expression to be of benefit to others. And in this way, we take the Dharma into our everyday life.
Shendaji legaji laji la linji legi yumanada la malenje danglang tone legi yumanada da sosuge samnu kunolya o dangi di legaji leje konsulya anjik 판도치는 빼야고레스 konsul 야고 konsul링이 지 레가리 konsul 판도치 konsul 디기디 주나 빼야고레 konsul 디기디 중화쇼 지사딩이 도신 레가리 유사베 삼다웨나 데네 간실레 펜베스미 군네로 콜로 판생메 손에 제여도 만줄 레가리 개와사고와 제사다 니데니기 소수교 류기 주나 여바디 야 콘돌이야 두신 직직을 짐바로 또 단계 있으면 뒤던다 콘돌에 디기요하다 근데 콘족이 yargyo choya dondala ane konzol kiwaya dondala du chigi sebe mebache chu samtabena dene soso lega legorde la lingorde le chikarine gaje soso dondati dugore gyawache sagoro dene ge samnatanda thone gyawasare sammadana jenjewo jigorwa ineda gyawasas gayama dene kuno dene samdana gyawasaye de kare.
When you're engaging in your primary activity of the day, so going to work, whether it's your paid work or whether it's voluntary work, whatever you do, generate a virtuous motivation. Because whatever one's work is, others benefit from what you do. So there's been speaking about the recollection of kindness of others, and we see the great interdependence we have with others. So too, even if you do work that seems quite valueless, maybe it's just an administrative role in an ordinary job, there are others who rely on that. There are others that can do their job, earn their salary, or gain the benefit from your company, independent on you fulfilling your role. So whatever it is, others benefit from your endeavors. And here, for those endeavors to create merit requires the generation of a mind of the Dharma, a virtuous attitude. And if you generate a virtuous attitude, even the most mundane of jobs can lead to the accumulation of merit. And if you generate a powerful virtuous motivation, extensive merit can be accumulated because there are always others who rely on your activities, who benefit from your activities. So in this way, a primary activity in each day can be an expression of the accumulation of merit.
아니네 지금 저기 소소라는 게 강배 타고 올 매도로 답듯이 제비네 단지 넘기는 아주 매도도 인지로 소소라데 지 되네 아직 지금마다 개와사스가요 말마 다 삼육군로 토네 매도라 답나 오다딩이 매도 답 두체네 근데 코유리 신 코유 판된 예신리 판도 중고래 제산지 약고래서 비샬리 판데 약고래서 코유리 판야치리 안 되네게 안지도와 미라 통도 오다셈리아 갈라 오 매도 인지도 세데 니 매도 통도 수나 가볼 중고라 미샤단 갈라라 용고래 밀리가 가우중 빼야고로 와서 차상리아 셈리아 디기 중에 약고래서 된자디 매도 답위에서 매삼다이나 되네 이 매도 따와네 매도 샤야단 델이야 아직 델레테네 매도 델레테네 부몽골레지 델레 롱어체죠 코론솔이야 안지 디기 매도가 주사야데 컨트롤 고카브레고라 제사 데네시 셈젠 부신당 미티기 요야다 미샤사 셈리아 셈가한라 요야다 부신디겔야 자야도야라야다 안지 코르유고 송교 체도 이전에 디기 주야랴 체도 인셈베 삼다지도 제베이나 데네 야디 레가디 제베갑레 데네 삼다네 군롱체네 개발이 지단 개와사사세 데네 삼다나요 코론 개발이다 현다미스요 삼다요 코론 개발이다 대시 두신 삼다에 되게 차상 개발이다 개와사시 삼노 코론 땅반에 개와사래다 당고네 대사디 데니게 가지다 나주 삼례 통에 제바나 가르치베 기디나 개와사요 고갑디 예여바를 차고래 당아주 삼당 지 검심해 봐서 당아주 삼당 두고 말아 제자도 신다 데니게 춘춘춘춘데 차직검 이제 숨제 데네지는 야내야도 도시는 검시들에 용거를 받아 당아주 상마 직발에 당아주 차사 직발 데니게 지역국어를 받아
Many people enjoy gardening. It's a form of relaxation, being amongst nature, hearing the sounds of nature, feeling the soil in the hands, creating something beautiful. And if that's all it is, then that's very nice for you, but it's not something creating merit. But you engage in those exact same activities, but with a virtuous mind, you're accumulating extensive merit. In particular, if you remind yourself of the interdependence that we all have together, the interdependence between beings, this beautiful garden that you are creating actually benefits countless beings. Not just those who walk past your home and marvel at your lovely garden, but certainly the insect life, those that live in the soil, those that fly and enjoy the nectar of the flowers, those that eat the leaves, and then the bird life who also partake. All of them come to experience joy in your garden. And the joy that arises in their minds has come about independent on your efforts. And the goal of the Bodhisattva is to bring joy into the lives of others, both temporary, superficial joy like this, and through that connection, to eventually lead them to the Dharma and lead them to the lasting joyous state of enlightenment. So thinking like this, a mundane activity is transformed into an act of the Dharma. Because again, what makes something virtuous or not depends on the mind. And how virtuous it is depends on the mind. And also whether one is engaging in Buddhist practice doesn't depend on what you're doing so much with your hands or your speech, but the quality of your mind. So therefore, I encourage you to think in an expansive way like this. Come up with various means to bring the Dharma into your many activities every day, so that they become opportunities to accumulate virtue, and that you have in mind that virtue is to aid you in the cultivation of your meditations on bodhicitta and the wisdom realizing emptiness, and thereby fulfill the resolve that you've made. So this is how I am trying to live my life, and I encourage you to try and live your lives in this way too.
어데 티카바사는 사분이 톱시아디 데니게 삼다다 돈에도 개와사디 예리가치 나 데네 순진베 톱시아디 다 순진베 톱시아디 베르람나 다 두스레 제상한 지게 둥아 용야다 용야데 차사 땅아데 라다 신심진 차사리아 기디나 강아 몽보체 둥아 네나서 몽모라 강아 몽보체 용도 데네 강아 체디게 유메바된 끼메바 데네 말에 제상주 레다 녀몽바 되샤시다 대내 용고래 대안에 디모티스 마릭바 텐시 마릭바 되는 용도와 선배게 삼다디 가상한도 텐시 마릭바 텐시 고셔야 되디래 다음에도 비셔라 섬데 텐시 마릭바 되는 용도 제사다 되는 인사다 규탐지게 강아지 규탐 소 텐시 마릭바르자 제사 텐시 마릭바데다 도시는 마방 탑은 빵고도 선배게다 되는게 삼다지 다야디다 순지메 덥시오레스
So that's the first three of the five powers: the power of resolve, the power of familiarization, the power of virtuous seeds. Now the fourth, the power of revulsion. And maybe this works, the power of revulsion. Here, being aware of the suffering that we experience and long to be free of, and the suffering that others experience and long to be free of, have as their causes the afflictions. Through the rise of anger or attachment or jealousy or pride, we suffer and we create the causes for further suffering, and we bring suffering into the lives of others. And these afflictions have at their very root the ignorance of self-grasping, which is what we spoke about a few days ago when looking at the cultivation of ultimate bodhicitta, the wisdom realizing emptiness. So here in the fourth power, one turns one's revulsion towards this root cause of suffering and develops a revulsion for this affliction of ignorance.
Molam yutore, molam jadi. Jisanda molam jadi, molam topsidu. Ta nganzu deshi nganzu kewa tuya ti chasangi kewa dilatine nge ane chige janshu sem se kunzu janshu sem da dona janshu sem bin gom nyamne chine tar chimba gyurwa sho se de molam ji tar chimba gyurwa sho.
The fifth of the powers is that of prayer. So here one dedicates all this virtue that has been accumulated to the generation of the two bodhicittas and their development to the point of completion or perfection.
And denigi kewe nyamlen chebale dene ananga ani chike jamni je chanju sem da dongba ni bishara nyamlen gi phajin juge nyamlen chebala ani shengi bar chiloge barche tamje hiwa sho tunjen gar changwon changwar sho sebe dushine gaye na jawa tunjen maluba changwar sho sede malam jaide.
Moreover, one dedicates and makes prayer that towards the generation of bodhicitta, the successful engagement in the six perfections, including the sixth, that of the wisdom realizing emptiness, and not just engage in them, but take them to the point of completion. And to do so, one dedicates that all required conditions that myself and all beings receive or acquire, and all hindrances are overcome through this dedication.
Denigi da dene simja tamjigido sanyo gobon tobo sho, tobo gyurgyuwa sho, gewa saba dile shenle pemba gecho mo tutubi gyurgyuwa sho, da molam gang cheche ngazo gang gyaptune lihore, jisa da di molam jayre, jisa da ngowa chagore, ngowa da molam niga chagore, chika sosu gewa tupje, gewa jisaje, gewa deva ya, ano jige didi gyuwa sho so molam jayne, molam da ngowa niga re. Da denigi ngowe zechiyo ba da ngowa re, molam chagore. Denigi da zeme bachi da ngasimja thami sanyo goba thobo sho sibe sam tawe na denu ngongo kasore molam jibure chagore ngowa se gewa me bache je ngowe zeji me bache molam jana molam jigre molam jibure da zeji gewa sa denigi zeji sne di an dene gyuwa sho di yongwa sho sibe molam jawe na dene ngowa dang molam iga chagore.
Here, under the power of prayer, one can recite prayers as one wishes and dedicate in a more extensive manner as one wishes. So whilst this is called the power of prayer, we should understand that it includes the power of dedication, or includes dedication as well. So expansively, you'd say the power of prayer and dedication. So what is the difference between the two? Technically, one would say dedication has a substance that is dedicated and prayer doesn't. So in other words, dedication is where one dedicates merit to specific goals, whereas prayer is an expression of aspiration for the achievement of those goals. So the words can be very similar, but when one is dedicating acquired merit to the achievement of goals, whereas prayer is an expression of a wish for those goals to be achieved. So that is the difference between the two.
Isa denigi tumga tone nyamlen chebadi techin puye damga ne tumga yin chelam che side chesa da techin puye damga side powa se dang jugi nen jigni jigle puye to powa de powa sigore chesa da koye dunga dedale tarche sanje ko toba na da powa re koye nele sanje sa de powa po jowa re da powa se ne kangba dina ne pa puye shanda chi jowa ne powa ne 제상아주 포화디 시도와 포화자야 저러와 포화디 지도 코비기 네 텔레 타지야 아니 답이신리야 꿰바들라다 포화 접시올 때니게 타지야 꿰바 포화 접시 포화선데 포화래 제자다 태친 포외 담아니 동안이 좋아인스 제자다 태친기 태바친표 포외 담아 다리디 태바친 포외 담아래 스타디지 만족이 동안이 냠는 제야디 제자디 아니 코위 동아 타달을 줘야지 상지 고방 토예기 상지래야 포야고 고방래기 담아 다디디래 소다.
So that then is the 5 powers. So the first point, the heart essence of these spiritual instructions is in brief to apply oneself to the 5 powers. Now the second, and here I'm just going to change the translation, as the Mahayana instructions for transformation is those very 5 powers, their practice is essential. So the meaning of the word transformation, which I'd originally translated as transference of consciousness, because that is the word, but then the meaning is transformation, meaning that it transforms one from an ordinary being into a Buddha. It is through these 5 powers, through the practicing or the cultivation of these 5 powers, that one comes to transform from an ordinary being into a Buddha.
Yes, sir. That nganjugi that tomngadi nyamne chido sosoida ma that chisare samsamra chisare that the shiwi kaplya and denike tomgi tone nyamne chogore ejere that denike sosolya.
So these 5 powers are to be practiced. What we have here presenting a summary of a lifetime's practice. So presented then how one practices these now throughout one's lifetime. But when we come to that pivotal time, the end of this lifetime, then one should also practice these 5 powers, but there's a slight difference.
Adi dambo kabo sabuni topsia tiare. Da kabo sabuni topsidu sosolya yuji da yubadige chazaya milya jimba tangda tang ya control chou phuya de phui che du shin ba jimba ta ya dang control chou phuya du shin ya je da gawasa de kabo sonim topsia dire. Da semlia jala la gyusha la chapa mya ba je de ne ya phui de phui jimba tang da du shin je da kabo sabuni top.
So now when one's life is ending, one needs to practice these 5 powers, but the sequence is different. So first will be the power of virtuous seeds. So it was the 3rd before, this is now the 1st one. That as death approaches, one makes offerings with one's possessions to the lama, to the idam, 3 jewels, as well as giving one's possessions away. So one practices generosity in this way at the time of, as one's death nears. So that's the first of the 5 then is the power of virtuous seeds.
Dene molam jayadiri, jisa molam jayadiri, mahombanada, dene ki jikinga, anji kowe dungalari, tarbiyo koba, sangyo koba, topar sho, sebeda, dene ki mahombana, ane jiki jamni je janshu sem, tongba yintobe, dene nyamlan jayaliya, kiwe shinyan, senyi de deba, chechen, dizan chue shin, nyamlan jaya kohab rawar sho, se samdayadida, molam yitopsayad samdayadiri, dushin samda.
The second of the 5 at the time of death then is the power of prayer and dedications. Here then the prayer is the one's making, the dedication of one's merit, is that may I attain Buddhahood. May I continue in each and every life until I attain Buddhahood to meet my Mahayana spiritual teacher, recognize him as such, come under his guidance and train in the cultivation under his guidance of love, compassion, bodhicitta, and the wisdom realizing emptiness, and thereby fulfill the needs of all beings. So in this way, one makes prayers and dedication at the time of death. The third then is the power of revulsion, again, directed towards the ignorance of self-grasping. In that, one expresses this as a determination to abandon what one has revulsion for, the ignorance of self-grasping.
Mahobane, Anejine, Kiwa Chimene, Jamni, Chanju Semda, Tombani to be shared of Comgis, that didn't ma, then Dadinea, and Jamni Jeda, Chanju Semda, Tombani to share of Comgis, and be some daddy pemba dodge.
Then the 4th is the power of resolve, which is again same meaning as before, just now it's 4th. This determined attitude. I am going to continue to practice bodhicitta and the wisdom realizing emptiness.
Dine tamade gombe topre, jizan gombe topsida, the sosora janjusem gombainada, Tonyu gombainada, da janjusem gomban, semje tamjigton sanjogoba toprosho, sembe samlo du, chin sam daje dinema, jige lava yeba de gogal, washa de dusini, dusiri, the page. 시에게 되는 수도 전에 예전에 두신도 semjan sanyogoba toprosho, sembe janju semde, samna tang jibo gomje, gomba, dine jine gomje du, jine ucheron shiruya, shirugo resore.
And that leaves the final one, the power of familiarization. So now we really are at the end of one's life. And one independence on a lifetime of familiarization with the Dharma. So again, we remember this was the word that it can be meditation or familiarization. Here, because it's an involuntary verb, then it's really familiarization. So independence on the familiarization one has built over one's lifetime. One generates the mind of bodhicitta and the wisdom understanding emptiness. And then lies on one's right side and prepares to pass from this body and prepares for the next.
Dine 동바 니 공바 있는 거다. 데니게 곰데 펜바단 데네 심자담 최담제 나시 랑원에 된된 주바세 나와 나신지 자오기네 메 가야 되바메 랑원에 주바 자와지 메베 메아 다선 제베스나 가야 메 동상지야 선배 동상데 데니게 삼다제 두제 삼다데 데네 삼다위 데니게 삼다 땅 신병 안에다 우체의 시조하드네 데니게다 곰바이나 데니게 가서 펜 곰베 돕세야 최고래.
The familiarization one is built on ties with the resolve that one has made. So one is now recalling one's meditations on bodhicitta and the wisdom realizing emptiness. So in order to become a Buddha for the sake of all beings, I will become a Buddha. All my kind, dear mother beings. Through this death process, I will help them. I will continue my journey of helping them. These beings who are empty of existing in their own way, whose suffering is empty of existing from its own side, whose happiness is empty of existing from its own side. So this way one generates the minds of bodhicitta and the wisdom understanding emptiness at the time of death.
두 전에 냠는 전에 다 공부 또 잠시샘 공야다 동방이 또비 동이 공부 안에 봐 시소서 마이나 디네께와 침바들라 가송들레 좀 먹어와 덴돌이야 기고래 덴돌께 사쳐버려 제가 디네에서도 포위 또 포와스네 나송을 딜레 타르제네 게모와 안 덴돌이야 기고요 봐서 포와스 캬바지베 디네게 똥아 담가게 냠는 제네 제와 침마 가송들레 타르제네 원료고마 톱투아디 용거리에서 똥마디 디 똥에 포와스 담가셔야 돼 디제 디마세다 간데 디시바나지 똥마디 냠는 제네 캬바침별람 냠는 제네 디네 고용 가서 동아 타다르셔 산요고 발로 포야게 담가디에서 제사다 디니게 똥이 냠는 제디 캬바침이 쉬 냠는 제레 디 냠는 제리 델라 데네 고용 동아들 타르지네 야 산요고 발로 톱주구리 포주구리 포외 냠는 제게 담가디에서 담가 데네 소수기 지게 시가라마이네 두시네 녀만은 아주 동 공부 요반 두시는 공부이나 데네지네 잠주심 공부 동이 공부 두시 공부 안에 두시송이나 데네 개와치만 가서들레 타르체네 개모어제 데돌레 기그리에서 세상 포에 담아래서 어두치네 제고래서 숨어르다.
So this second point, I changed the translation before as the Mahayana instructions for transformation is those very 5 powers they practice is essential. So the original translation was transference of consciousness, which is the normal way this term poa is translated. But the word itself, poa, means to move or to transform or to move, to transform. So here at the time of death, when one generates these 5 powers, and now it's the end of one's life, one's generating bodhicitta and the wisdom understanding emptiness, independent on the quality of virtue one has accumulated and the quality of realization one has in one's life, one has attained in one's life, then this process of transformation will come, or this. Bear in mind this, the normal translation of transference of consciousness, because your consciousness is being transformed from one life to the next. And depending then on the quality of realization of bodhicitta and wisdom realizing emptiness one has, one, at the very least, will not be reborn in the lower realms, but be born in the higher realms. In those higher realms, perhaps with another precious human rebirth, perhaps in the God realms, or perhaps even through the bardo, attain enlightenment and arising as a Buddha. So this process of transformation, how it turns out in one of these ways is in dependence on the causes that have been accumulated. So this then is how to understand this term transformation or transference of consciousness, whereby one's consciousness is transferring from one life form to a new life form.
lama chupa na le meni tata di wale zoro de desa gare sikti da lamna ma sin jiwi du je na zanda changja lami powa ni dongwa yang da jewe damwa gi da bi hindu zhuba jingi lo se di re da di so re lamna ma su su ge da nyamle je na lam gyule ke ma tu ba che 다 되네 유디 갑라 안 남남에서 지위 뒤제나 냠렌제 냠렌 남규레 깨마도베다 시에기 깨섬레여도 가져와서 시위 뒤제나 잔답 상계 라미 포안이시데 라미기 파두 담가시 라미 잔답체데 배 우주 겹제 되네 포안이 담가 신들 가서 동화야다지 동화디 삼다지 라미 파수 아 되네 라미 간나 될때 동화디 파 냠렌제제 되네 파 우주 손도 슉 겹제 디토네다 개와치마 야 아니까 소리 다베신이야 가서 깨마 다신에 개와체마 용물이 했어야지 디디 폴라미 포와시에서 가하래 다디데 동마지 않으시고 디소수기 냠네 또 제산디 시고래
So in the 112th verse of the Lama Chöpa, this point is made. So I'll read the verse. Please bless me to reach a pure land, should the points of the path not be completed at death, by either the forceful means of enlightenment, the Guru's mind transference, or by the advice of applying the 5 forces.
지나다 대신 마신들이 뒤동화세 제사 동화 삼다 동화 삼다 시소 안디레다 동화 디니 삼다제 안두신에 다신이야 개와 용거리에서.
So then these are the 5 forces in the sequence that one recalls them at one's time of death, so as to aid an excellent transference from one life to the next.
아래 나데네 대신은 가요라요 다디 Bendigo sometimes together that Kabasama Topsati Gun Mangusha that did it sign Maya Mutisha.
So then we can conclude there today. Spoken quite a lot about the 5 powers. But there's plenty therefore as a summary of a lifetime's practice. And then we'll continue from here tomorrow.
But
there's a question.
Thank you. This question is about when we meditate on suffering. I've had a deep sadness come over me when I meditate on the suffering of all sentient beings, which I think is due to maybe the first time I've ever had a real connection to other people's suffering that I perhaps haven't really considered. And it's a sadness that certainly connects me to a compassion for everyone and provides me with some clarity and also afterwards a weightlessness. But at the time it is very heavy to experience. I wanted to ask if you or any other monks have a real deep sadness and heaviness associated with meditating on the suffering of all sentient
니 용거래 닝제 삼다에도 샘 교랑라 용고 변능한데 경고무시 손신 남가데 니제고도 샘징 강아 니제고 마서 잠지 미슈당 무야로 되는 용고 라마디기 용고래 저는 디샘 교랑라 용고 이 양치 송구도 되는 컴퓨터 까브르레 샘려 교랑라 까브르레 샘려 가랑라 용고도.
So yes, this certainly can happen, can and does happen. So His Holiness has shown this example through when he's guided a meditation on the suffering of beings, and he has wept before the audience. So one can have the response of like you've described. For others, it's a lighter response, a more joyous response, because of a different focus or emphasis. But certainly, such a response can come.
예. 셈비교랑라 영화도 갑라 영화디기 소소리에 셈비교랑라 중고르데 디기 셈 소소랑라 통저다야다 능명아 좀 당아 중마 선생님 통저 삼다지 디 용고 말 그래서 되네 셈비교랑라 다 되네기 교랑 되네기 네 되네 콘솔리아 판도체 네디 쿨렌도 빼 약부 인 셈비 소소 니도 끼야디 디 용고로 니도 끼야지 용고 제산 되네 삼당고 어때 교랑라 용고도 어때 되네 삼다 되네 삼도 괜찮 보지 배 semje 탐지 예 계제 편도 주에 삼단 배 마시다 디게 첨부 쉬우래 그 직자 첨부래 다딩아 제호하시래 선배 소설이야 딩 닝도 예 되 삼도.
But with such a feeling, it's important to be skillful. One shouldn't lead that feeling shouldn't lead to a feeling of hopelessness or helplessness in the face of suffering, but rather one should be skillful and lead it to develop a forceful resolve, a determined attitude. There's need in this world. I have to transform myself, thereby develop skills so that I can be of ever greater service to others. So this is important, to utilize such emotion in a skillful manner.
개화를 예지수 일하지 봐. 이제 때 야구 중시하세요. 소수게 개화 때 야구 중시서 소소소소를 이 제수 일하지 소소소를 인도 끼고로. 소소소를 어디 결혼 야구를 하셨으니 밀리 인도 끼 주고로 와도 결혼 빼 야구 제서는 콜이야 샘주 파야 인도 끼야 용고로. 제사다 이제 빼 야구 주다 디샤선 빼 이제 노면 빼 야구 있는데 이제 해디 lama sangye tamje yu gongba tumba chigyu jesa de ngi di cheba di sangye chanshu samba tamje tu nye gyo re sambe samtan pe ya hu chung sha sambe samda so gewal chi su yira jen so yin do pe de yong go re.
So it's important in that the outcome of this meditation isn't that you stand up feeling dispirited, weak, overcome, but rather with a courageous heart. And generate this by actually rejoicing in what you are feeling, rejoicing in this determination. I am going to join the bodhisattvas in their endeavors to ease the suffering in the world. I'm going to apply myself to cultivate the Dharma within, develop these qualities so that in my interactions with others, at the very least, I don't add to the burden of pain, but wherever I can, I will ease the suffering of others and generate joy in this determined attitude. And this is important. So apologies, again, I've gone a little bit over tonight, but thank you nevertheless. Thank you.